Hey guys, welcome to Alternative Outlook, and today we'll be ranking albums from worst to best of one of my favourite bands, Sum 41. Depending on who you speak with, this is either the first album released by the band or it's just a slightly longer EP. Because it has a few iconic Sum 41 songs, I will just put it on the list. Released in the year 2000 when pop punk was exploding everywhere, Sum 41 released Half Hour of Power, 11 tracks of pure pop punk bliss, kind of. Yes, it does have a few classic songs such as What I Believe, Makes No Difference, the song which Sum 41 did their first video for, and also my favourite song on the full album, well, one of my favourite songs of Sum 41's catalogue, Machine Gun. A 2.5 minute fast punk rock song with machine gun drums to match, this is a song which showcases what Sum 41 could really be, instead of just another run-of-the-mill pop punk band. The reason why this album is last on the list, aside from the mentioned songs already, there's not really a lot of replay value in this album. There's 3 instrumentals, one song which will be on an upcoming album, and the rest are sort of filler to be honest. Derek has also still not reached his potential as a vocalist, and to be honest, he's trying a little bit too hard to sound like one of his idols, Fat Mike from NoFX. And it's all of these things combined which makes Half Hour of Power last on my list. Coming in at number 7 is 13 Voices, the comeback album of sorts, released in the year 2016. This is the first album to feature drummer Frank Zumo, replacing original member Steve-O, who quit the band a few years before, and also the return of Dave Brownsound's original guitarist. Because this album is so low down, you might think that I dislike this album, but I don't. I just think compared to other albums, it kind of lacks direction, which is understandable simply because Derek was on his deathbed a few years before recording the album due to his alcohol problems. There's a lot of vocal effects and some electronic sounds, and to be honest, when I listen to Sum 41, that is not what I'm after. Songs like Breaking the Chain and an album closer, Twisted by Design, sound like Linkin Park B-sides, and first single, Fake My Own Death, comes across as a sort of paint by the number Sum 41 song. Saying that though, there are some excellent tracks here. Goddamn I'm Dead Again should have kicked off the album. It's a sort of fast punk rock song that I love, and it showcases just how good Dave Brownsound is at guitar. The Fall and the Rise has the best chorus on the record, which will get stuck in your head all day, and 13 Voices shows just how good Sum 41 are at their instruments with some excellent guitar work. 13 Voices is not a bad album, it's just a little forgettable compared to others. Now this album gets a lot of hate, and I mean a lot of hate. Practically every single music critic hated this album, but me, I quite like it. Yes, they copy bits from Green Day's American Idiot, and also My Chemical Romance's Black Parade, but when you have songs such as Underclass Hero and Walking Disaster starting the album, I really don't mind. Released in the year 2007, this album was seen as a huge backstep by critics and fans as well, after the previous album Chuck took them in a more metal direction, but this album has them go back to their roots of a more pop punk sound. This was down to the fact that original guitarist Dave Brownsound left the band, who was the lover of heavy metal. They brought in Brown Tom, singer and guitarist of the punk rock band Gob, but for some reason he didn't record with Sum 41 until the album 13 Voices. The main problem I have with Underclass Hero is down to one thing, to be honest, and that is the production. Every song sounds exactly the same, and I mean exactly the same. This was Derek's first try as the producer, so you can give him some slack, and thankfully it's got so much better. Due to the bad production, a lot of the guitar riffs sound exactly the same, with the same kind of chord progression, and also, sadly, the vocal melodies sound also the same. However, the songs on this album do kick ass. Well, most of them. The only songs in this album that I don't care for are Ma Belle, which is a sort of joke French song, and Best of Me, which is a bit too boring and sappy for my liking. Underclass Hero is a great way to start the album off, with a great guitar riff and an amazing chorus, and then following track Walking Disaster is one of the best of the band's career. You then have songs such as Confusion and Frustration in Modern Times, which is a song that Sum 41 should play live way more often, and then album highlight Pull the Curtain, an epic 4-minute track which pulls you in so many different directions. If it wasn't for the bad production and a couple of forgettable songs, this album would be way more higher. Order in Decline, the latest album by Sum 41, comes in at number 5. To be honest, there's not a lot to say about this album. It is a great album. The only reason it's number 5 is because it falls slightly short of other albums, and that comes down to two things. Again, having only 10 tracks on the album, and a couple of those tracks I really don't care for at all. I feel closing track Catching Fire, even though it has heartfelt lyrics, to be just boring, to be honest. The New Sensation to me is quite a bland mid-tempo song that is mere filler, and opening track Turning Away is one of the weaker opening songs that Sum 41 have ever done. However, if you take that away, this album has some of the darkest and heaviest songs of the band's career. Out for Blood's 45 A Matter of Time and the People Verses are Sum 41 at their very best. The People Verses, in my opinion, is the catchiest song that Sum 41 have recorded since the days of Underclass Hero. What sets this album apart from the previous album 13 Voices is you can tell that Sum 41 had a direction that they wanted to go in, and they went all in. There's very little experimentation on this album compared to the previous two albums anyway. It's mostly just guitars, drums and bass, and that's when Sum 41 are at their best. Like Underclass Hero, this album really divided fans. You either love it or hate it, and me personally, I love it. Released in the year 2011, this album was the darkest of the band's career. Derek just came out of divorce, and you can tell he had a lot of anger and resentment inside of him, with songs such as Screaming Bloody Murder, Sick of Everyone, and Blood in My Eyes. In my opinion, this album has the best single of the band's career. Not the best song, but the best single, with this track, Screaming Bloody Murder. Written by Brown Tom and then finished by Derek, this track is just perfection. It's catchy, it's heavy, it has a great guitar solo, it is so good. And whatever you do, please watch the music video for the song Blood in My Eyes. It's a 7-minute short horror movie, and it is one of the best of the band's career. In my opinion, it is the best music video of the band's career. The main complaint that people have with this album is that there are a lot of filler tracks. And to be honest, I do see that kind of. I find the tracks, What Am I to Say, Scumfuck, and Back Where I Belong to be boring, and when I put this album on, I do tend to skip them. But when you have songs as good as Jessica Kill, Reason to Believe, and Crash, the best ballad the band has ever wrote, I really don't mind. No one really talks about this album, but please do yourself a favour and give it a try. I promise you will not regret it. Coming in at number 3 is 2002's Does This Look Infected, the follow-up to the highly successful All Killer, No Filler. After being seen as a sort of joke band to the general public, Sum 41 decided to shake things up a bit and released, as the first single, Still Waiting, a song about the Iraq War. The pop-punk elements are still there on this album in songs such as Thanks for Nothing and All Messed Up, which is a great drinking song by the way. But the guitar tone seems a lot heavier, and the fact there's not one slow song or even a mid-tempo song, everything is going at 100 miles per hour. The production on this album though is not the best, with it sounding a lot less polished than the previous album. But I think that's down to pressure from the record label to get the album finished in time, and it explains why there's poor production and a couple of filler songs as well. Tracks such as ANIC and Hooch are kind of disappointing, especially Hooch, as that track closes the album and you want the album to finish off with a bang. It is a good song, it's just not as strong as the rest of the album, especially the first 4 tracks. Hellsong, Over My Head, Better Off Dead, My Direction and Still Waiting start this album off, and what a way to start. It really does not get better than that. Just missing out on the top spot by the tiniest of margins is 2004's Chucks, the most metal album of the band's career. All signs of the pop-punk sound from the first two albums are well and truly gone, and it's replaced by a sort of heavy/alternative metal sound, and boy, does this album sound good. The production on this album is absolutely fantastic. The guitars shine through, and Derek's vocals have never sounded as good. The song The Bitter End is a great tribute to the Metallica song Battery, which shows just how good Sum 41 really are as musicians. The album has also the best closing track of the band's career, the absolutely epic 88. It features some of the most impressive guitar work you're likely to hear, and also something you would not expect from the same band that wrote Into Deep. Derek as a songwriter reached a whole new level, dealing with broader issues such as war, world peace, humanity. And I think a lot to do with that is that they went to Congo to make a documentary about the civil war there, and they got caught in a crossfire and had to get saved by a peacemaker called Chuck, who they named the album after. If I have one minor flaw, and I mean very minor, is that I don't really care for the track slipping away, as it kind of disrupts the flow of the album, but to be honest, that is all. This is one of my favourite albums of all time, and to be honest, depending on what mood I'm in, this could easily be number one on any other day. Come on guys, it had to be this. 2001's All Colour, No Filler. This is the album which put Sum 41 on the map, and putting all nostalgia aside, this is one of the best pop-punk albums ever made. If you make a list of the most iconic pop-punk albums, this album was up there with Green Day's Dookie and Blink-182's Enema of the State. There is no heaviness to this album at all. It's basically the sound of the summer. It's fun, it's light-hearted, and it's about being young with no or little responsibilities. It has the most iconic Sum 41 songs such as Into Deep, Fat Lip and Motivation, but every other song also shines through. I think this album's biggest strength is that it's so consistent. From the first track to the last, there are no bad songs on this album at all. Deeper cuts such as Handle This, album opener Nothing on My Back, is some of the best of the band's career, and also this album has my favourite song the band have ever wrote, Heart Attack. It really is criminally underrated how good that song is. It's a song they must play live way more. To be honest, I really don't have any bad things to say about this album. It was released at a time when pop punk was exploding, and this album showed that Sum 41 were ahead of the pack in almost every way. As generic as what I'm about to say is, this album really is all colour, no filler. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Sum 41 album is, and I shall see you guys soon. Peace!